Every time you tap a piece of plastic against a terminal to buy a cup of coffee, you are executing an act of pure, abstract magic. You hand over nothing tangible, yet you walk away with real food, convinced a fair transaction just took place. It feels completely natural, but if you strip away the digital screens, the paper bills, and the gold coins, you arrive at a question that completely breaks modern logic. How did ancient humans work without money? Most people think they know the answer. They assume our ancestors just spent their days swapping chickens for axes and grain for spears. But the archaeological record reveals something far stranger and far more terrifying. What our ancestors actually did to survive without a currency didn't just solve their daily trade problems. It fundamentally rewired the human brain, built our social structures, and created the hidden psychological instincts that still control your bank account today. If you step into a time machine and travel back 40,000 years, you'll notice something immediately about human survival. It is brutally inefficient. Imagine you are a hunter in Pleistocene Europe. You've just pulled off the impossible. You and 4 others tracked, isolated, and speared a 600-pound steppe bison. You have a massive pile of meat. You can eat maybe 5 pounds of it today. Your family can eat another 10. But you don't have a refrigerator. You don't have salt curing yet. In 48 hours, this mountain of protein will transform into a rotting, fly-blown biohazard that will attract every cave hyena within 20 miles. So, what do? If the textbook barter theory were true, you'd haul a 50-pound leg of rotting bison to the local flint knapper and say, "I will trade you this meat for 3 spear points." And the flint knapper would look at you, look at his existing stash of meat, look at your rapidly spoiling bison leg, and say, "I'm not hungry today. And I'm certainly not giving you an axe for something that will smell like a corpse by tomorrow." Economists call this the double coincidence of wants. For barter to work, you must find someone who has exactly what you need, at the exact moment they want what you have. In a small band of 30 hunter-gatherers, the odds of this happening are essentially 0. And this is where the story gets weird. For centuries, scholars assumed that because primitive barter was too clunky, early humans must have lived in complete, isolated self-sufficiency, every family for themselves. The honest answer is much darker. Isolation was a death sentence, but they didn't trade either. Instead, they invented a system far more sophisticated and far more dangerous. When archaeologists excavate sites like Sungir in Russia, dating back 34,000 years, they don't find evidence of markets. They find grave goods. Thousands of intricately carved ivory beads, mammoth tusk spears, and decorated clothing that took thousands of hours to craft. If these people weren't selling these items, why make them? Ancient humans solved the double coincidence of wants, not with objects, but with human memory. They developed what anthropologists call a gift economy, powered by an invisible, unwritten, and lethal ledger, social credit. Here is how it actually worked. You kill the 600-pound bison. You can't preserve it. You can't sell it. So, you give it away. You feed the flint knapper. You feed the elderly woman who knows which roots aren't poisonous. You feed the hunter who broke his leg last week. You don't demand an axe in return. You don't ask for immediate payment. Instead, by handing over that meat, you are converting a perishable physical asset, rotting flesh, into an indestructible social asset, obligation. Meat rots. Debt doesn't. By feeding your tribe, you stored that food inside your neighbor's stomachs. 6 months later, when the winter blizzards roll in and your hunting run comes up empty, you don't starve. You walk over to the flint knapper, or the gatherer, and you collect. There was no currency. The currency was reputation. The bank was the collective memory of the band. But this system had a terrifying catch. In a modern market, if you refuse to pay your credit card bill, the bank tanking your credit score is the worst of it. In the Paleolithic, failing to honor your social ledger wasn't a financial error. It was treason. If you consistently took food during hard times, but refused to share when you had an excess kill, you were labeled a freeloader. In a world with zero law enforcement, freeloading wasn't handled with a lawsuit. It was handled with ostracization. The tribe simply stopped extending credit. They stopped sharing fire. They stopped watching your back while you slept. In the Pleistocene, being cut off from the credit ledger meant you were pushed outside the firelight. Location was survival. Exclusion was execution. This informal ledger of debts didn't just keep us alive. It fundamentally rewired the human brain. To keep track of who owed what to whom in a group of 50 people, you need an incredible amount of mental processing power. You have to remember that Grok owes Thag half a deer, but Thag owes you a bundle of hide, and you owe Grok's sister for healing your infection 3 moons ago. This mental bookkeeping is the primary driver behind the evolution of our massive neocortex. We didn't evolve big brains to invent calculus. We evolved big brains to run an accounting ledger of favor and betrayal. Language itself likely evolved to manage this credit system. Gossip wasn't just idle chatter. It was a credit check. Did you see how much salmon Kale kept for himself? Yeah, he didn't give any to the elders. That's not drama. That's a real-time adjustment of Kale's credit score. And for nearly 200,000 years, this unwritten, highly emotional, trust-based system worked impeccably. It carried us through ice ages, volcanic winters, and megafauna extinctions, until we made a fatal mistake. We invented agriculture. Around 10,000 years ago, human populations exploded. Bands of 30 turned into villages of thousands, and suddenly, the ancient brain hit a hard limit. You can maintain a mental credit ledger for 50 people you've known since birth. You cannot maintain a mental ledger for 5,000 strangers living in a Mesopotamian city. Trust broke down. The solution wasn't to go back to barter. The solution was to take the invisible ledger inside our heads and stamp it onto physical clay. The earliest writing on Earth isn't poetry. It isn't mythology. It isn't religious scripture. It's receipts. Kushim has received 37,108 measures of barley over 37 months. When the social ledger became too vast for human memory to hold, we externalized it. We created physical tokens of debt. Clay tokens became silver shekels. Silver shekels became minted coins. Minted coins became paper bills. Paper bills became green numbers flickering on your phone. Money was never a commodity used to avoid barter. Money was just the physical manifestation of primitive debt, a way to track obligation among strangers. Look around you today. Notice how uncomfortable you feel when a friend buys you dinner, and you immediately feel the urge to Venmo them your share. That isn't modern politeness. That is a 300,000-year-old biological instinct screaming inside your brain. Your Paleolithic ancestors knew that carrying an unpaid favor made you vulnerable. To be in debt was to owe your standing in the band. We like to think of ourselves as hyper-advanced, soft, digital creatures who live in a frictionless financial world. But under the hood, nothing has changed. Every dollar bill in your wallet, every digit in your bank account, is just an artificial mammoth bead. It is a promise that society owes you for something you previously gave up. Money didn't replace human trust. It just gave us a way to trade with people we don't trust at all.